Thank you for joining me for another study. On this one, we'll be going through the book of Judges, where people of Israel were doing what was right in their own eyes. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people doing what's right in their own eyes these days, and we are destined to make the same mistakes if we don't learn from the mistakes of the past. So let's read Judges together and see what we can glean. I'll be reading out of the TS 2009 if you'd like to follow along. Judges chapter 1. And it came to be after the death of Joshua that the children of Israel asked Yahuwah, saying, "Who of us will go up first against the Canaanites to fight against them?" And Yahuwah said, "Judah does go up. See, I have given the land into his hand." And Judah said to Simon his brother, Judah said to Simon his brother, "Come up with me into my allotment, and let us fight against the Canaanites, and I myself shall also go with you into your allotment." So Simon went with him, and Judah went up, and Yahuwah gave the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hands, and they struck 10,000 men at Bezek. And they found Adonai-Bezek in Bezek, and fought against him, and struck the Canaanites and the Perizzites. But Adonai-Bezek fled, and they pursued him and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. Ouch. And Adonai-Bezek said, 70 sovereigns with their thumbs and big toes cut off used to gather food under my table. As I have done, so Elohim has repaid me. So, got what he reaped what he sowed, got what he had coming to him. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. And the children of Judah fought against Jerusalem and captured it and struck it with the edge of the sword and set the city on fire. And afterward, the children of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites who dwelt in the mountains in the south and in the low country. And Judah went up against the Canaanites who dwelt in Hebron. Now, the name of Hebron was formerly Kiriath Arba, and they struck Sheshaiah. I'm terrible with these names, you guys. Please forgive me. And Ahiman and Talmai. Again, terrible with the names. Verse 11. And from there they went against the inhabitants of Debir. Now the name of Debir was formerly Kiriath Sephir. And Caleb said, "He who smites Kiriath Sephir and shall capture it, to him I shall give my daughter Achsah as wife." And Othniel, son of Quinaz, Caleb's younger brother, captured it, and he gave him his daughter Achsah as wife. Goodness, these names tongue-twisted me. Anyways, verse 14. And it came to be, when she came in, that she urged him to ask her father for a field. And when she got off from her donkey, Caleb said to her, "What is the matter?" And she said to him, "Give me a blessing, since you have given me land in the south. Give me also springs of water." So Caleb gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. And the children of the Quinite, father-in-law of Moshe, went up from the city of Palms with the children of Judah into the wilderness of Judah, which is in the Negab of Arad. And they went and dwelt among the people. And Judah went with Simon his brother, and they struck the Canaanites who had inhabited Sephath, and put it under the ban. So the name of the city was called Hormah. And Judah captured Azah and its border, and Ashkelon and its border, and Ekron and its border. And Yahuwah was with Judah, so they took possession of the mountains, but they were unable to drive out the inhabitants of the plain, because they had chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moshe had said, and he drove out from there the 3 sons of Anak. However, and by the way, these might have been giants, just saying. If you haven't seen all the stuff coming out about giants, utterly proves, not only the Bible, but even what biblical apocrypha says, like the Book of Enoch. So much stuff is coming about that now. It's nice that it's not getting hidden anymore. And you don't have to sound, crazy for believing that giants existed when, well, there's mountains of proof now. So anyways, if you're not aware of that, go look into it. It's a fact. It's not fiction. It's not made up. Giants are real. Verse 21. However, the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites who inhabited Jerusalem. So the Jebusites have dwelt with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem to this day. And the house of Joseph also went up against Bethel, and Yahweh was with them. And the house of Joseph sent men to spy out Bethel. Now, the name of the city was formerly Luz. And the watchmen saw a man coming out of the city, and they said to him, Please show us the entrance to the city, and we shall show you loving commitment. So he showed them the entrance to the city, and they struck the city with the edge of the sword, but the men and all his clan they let go. And the man who went to the land of the Hittites and built a city, and called its name Luz, which is the name to this day. And Manasseh did not dispossess Beth-shean and the village, nor Tanakh and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Dor and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Yeblim and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Megiddo and its villages, for the Canaanites desired to dwell in that land. And it came to be, when Israel was strong, that they put the Canaanites into compulsory labor, but did not completely drive them out. Neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites who dwelt in Gezer. So the Canaanites dwelt in their midst in Gezer. Neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kitron or the inhabitants of Naholol. So the Canaanites dwelt in their midst and became compulsory labor. Neither did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akko, nor the inhabitants of Sidon, nor of Elab, nor of Akazib, nor of Helba, nor of Afik, nor of Rehob. So the Asherites dwelt in the midst of the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, because they did not drive them out. Neither did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, nor the inhabitants of Beth Anor, but they dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, and the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh and of Beth Anoth became compulsory labor for them. And the Amorites pressed the children of Dan into the mountains, for they would not allow them to come down to the valley. And the Amorites desired to dwell in Mount Heres, in Aelon, and in Shalbim. But when the hand of the house of Joseph became stronger, they became compulsory labor. And the border of the Ammonites was from the ascent of our Akrabim, from Selah and upwards. So, just throwing this out there, I'm pretty sure it mentions all this, like, hey, they didn't drive them out and they lived in the midst of them, because they were supposed to drive them all out. And this is when that whole, like, they started corrupting the people around them thing started happening. It gets bad. It gets bad in all this. Let's read chapter 2. And the messenger of Yahweh came up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I led you up from Mitzrayim and brought you to the land of which I swore to your fathers. And I said, I do not break my covenant with you. And as for you, do not make a covenant with the inhabitants of this land. So, and that's exactly what they did, right? I don't know, laziness, greed, power hungry, who knows? Could be all the above, could be other things, but they became stronger than this other nation. And instead of sending them out, which is what they were supposed to do, they were like, okay, you guys can stay and you can work for us. And this is when wickedness starts spreading. This is like that, I don't want to say old saying. It should be an old saying, but basically, this is where the leaven starts to happen. You give them one little foothold, and then they take another foot, and then another foot, and then another foot. But it happens over time. It doesn't happen in one day, right? Like, you can see this with, like, the evolution of Hollywood, right? Back in the day, when you go watch, 80s, 90s movies, they would slip a little bit of their wickedness in there with a normal movie. Just a little taste. Just a tiny little bit. And then over the years started getting a little bit more, and 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 a little bit more. And then before you know it, it's been 10 years, but now full-blown wickedness, 10, 20 years. Like, watch a movie today and then go watch a movie from 30 years ago. Like, you are not going to see the same type of depravity, right? They put it in a little bit at a time. Little tiny bit of leaven, get you used to it. And then when you're used to that, then they give you a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more. And this is what started happening. Anyways, verse 2. As for you, do not make a covenant with the inhabitants of this land. Break down their slaughter places, but you have not obeyed my voice. What is this you have done? So we start to see, again, they're just doing what's right in their own eyes again. Not listening to the commandments of the Most High. When he commands something, he means it, and it's for a reason. Whether we like it or not, or understand it or not, he didn't ask for your understanding or your like. He asked you to do it, right? And if you love him, that's what you're supposed to do. But I digress. Let's keep reading. Verse 3. Therefore, I also said, I am not driving them out before you, and they shall be adversaries to you, and their mighty ones shall be a snare to you. And it came to be, when the messenger of Yahuwah spoke these words to all the children of Israel, that the people lifted up their voice and wept. So they called the name of that place Bokim, and slaughtered there to Yahuwah. Then Yehoshua dismissed the people, and the children of Israel went each to his own inheritance to possess the land. And the people served Yahuwah all the days of Yehoshua, which is Joshua, which is the same Hebrew spelling of the name of our Messiah, right? And all the days of the elders, by the way, he's a massive foreshadow for Messiah Yeshua, in case you were not aware of that. But anyways, and all the days of the elders who outlived Yehoshua, who had seen all the great works of Yahuwah, which he had done for Israel. And Yehoshua, son of Nun, the servant of Yahuwah, died 110 years old. And they buried him within the borders of his inheritance at Timnah Heres in the mountains of Ephraim, on the north side of Mount Gaash. And all that generation were likewise gathered to their fathers, and another generation arose after them who did not know Yahuwah, nor the works which he had done for Israel. Then the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and served the Baals, who forsake Yahuwah, Elohim of their fathers, right? So we see this time and time again in the Bible. This is not anything new, right? Like, and honestly, even the people that came out of Egypt in the Exodus, they saw the works of Yah. They heard his voice. Like, they saw his good works. They saw his bad works. Not that they were bad, but they were, scary, right? On Egypt, the plagues, they saw that. And even they chose to disobey still, right? But then we see a generation of righteous people get rose up, and they start walking in the way, and they realize they made mistakes, and they turn from it, and then they walk in that righteousness, right? But then the generation passes away, and the one who came up after them turned to wickedness. We see it with like David and Solomon. Not that I think Solomon was like wicked, but he definitely started going down the path. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of times happens in the Bible. Not just Solomon, like other of David's sons went down the path of wickedness, and they grew up with David, like just the heart of our Messiah towards the Most High, right? Like they grew up with that heart, seeking the Most High, and still like being taught in a land full of uprightness and with a king of uprightness, they still went down a path of wickedness. So to think that you haven't done that in this generation, that we haven't done it, that our fathers didn't do it, it's unrealistic. And again, when you look at the works of the world, the works of the people who say they know and believe in the Most High, they're doing the same thing that's about to happen. They're turning from his way. They're like, oh, we didn't see the works. Sure, they happen, but we don't have to keep those commandments. Those aren't for us. Those were for the does for the other generation, right? Same thing's happening. But anyways, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt and went after other mighty ones, of the mighty ones of the people who were all around them, right? Little leaven spoils the whole lump. And they bowed down to them and provoked Yahuwah. So they forsook Yahuwah and served Baal and the Ashtaroths. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel. And, as it rightfully should. I just did a short video right before the making of this. And it was about a dream I had about, like me experiencing adultery in the dream, me being the on the receiving end of it, and it just feels horrible, right? And I already knew it felt horrible. Like I had girlfriends that I thought I was in love with that cheated on me and ripped my heart out of my chest, I've been there, right? Like I know the feeling, and every time we do this to the Most High, we reject him, we go after other gods. And make no mistake, you might not be like worshiping another god. You're not like bowing down and saying, oh, I worship you, God of Egypt, God of India, God of whatever country. But you're doing it with your actions. Just like it says in Titus 1:16, they profess to know God, but they deny him by their works because they are disobedient. Just like it says in Matthew 15, right? 8-9, the people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain are they worshiping me. Right? You're doing the same thing. Right? And when you do that, you're making the Most High feel that pang of adultery and betrayal. And it like anybody who's experienced that, anger burns hot in you for that. Like you get very angry, and then you get very, very sad. Like, it's all of the bad emotions all wrapped up into one crappy package, pardon my French. But either way, this is why his anger burned against them. I get it. They're basically committing adultery against him. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel. Therefore, he gave them into the hands of plunderers who despoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, and they were unable to stand before their enemies any longer. Right? So he took away his hedge of protection because of what they were doing. When we draw near to the Most High, when we come into his grace and his mercies by service of him, by listening to him, right? There's a hedge of protection put around us. And sometimes, that hedge is removed to serve a purpose, just like it was with Yeshua, just like it was with the disciples and the prophets. But the end of those people's service is everlasting life and an inheritance coming that we can't possibly even understand, but it's much better than anything this world has to offer. So I'm just saying, when we do this to the Most High, like I wouldn't want to make him feel the way I've had to feel, and they couldn't stand against their enemies anymore. Like he's like, okay, if you want to act this way, my hedge of protection's gone. I'm not gonna be here for you anymore. I'm not gonna be the one that is letting you take this over and dispossess these people and take their land, because we do nothing without the power of the Most High. Like even in our normal day-to-day lives, like I'm not out there dispossessing nations, but I don't have my job without the Most High. I don't have my house without the Most High. I don't have my kids without the Most High. I don't have my wife without the Most High. I have nothing without the Most High. And the second we start treating those things as nothing, and not acknowledging where it really came from, right? Remember what it says in James, every good gift and every perfect gift comes from above, from the Father. Well, when we start treating those things like they're nothing, then, he starts saying, all right, I'll show you then, right? But on the flip side of that, when we listen to him, when we obey him, we have this protection. We have this covenant of everlasting life. And they forgot that. And they're seeing in real time, what they did and how wrong it is. And if we are living in the end times, which I strongly suspect we are, this is going to happen to a lot of believers. The hedge of protection that's been around, that's made this nation great, it's going to be removed. And all these people that think they're, good in the hood and, well, it's just not going to go well, right? Read Revelation. That's about to come on the whole world. It's not good. And a lot of believers are going to be here for it. They think they're going to get raptured out of here, but that ain't what the Bible says. So anyways, I'm just saying, if we are in the history book where I think we are, there's a lot to learn from what these people did, and we need to not make the same mistakes. Let's keep reading. Verse 15. Wherever they went out, the hand of Yahweh was against them for evil, as Yahweh had spoken, and as Yahweh had sworn to them. And they were distressed greatly. I bet they were. And Yahweh raised up rulers who saved them from the hand of those who plundered them. However, they did not listen to their rulers either. Right? So he says, okay, I'm going to take mercy on you. I'm going to take pity on you. I'm going to deliver you from this situation. And then as soon as they're delivered, they go right back to their wickedness. And again, this is another thing we see playing out time and time again in biblical history and in our own history. But went whoring after other mighty ones and bowed down to them. And again, remember, like, you can think you're serving the Most High and believing in Him, but your actions are doing something else. They thought, in Exodus, with the golden calf, they thought they were serving the God that had just brought them out of Egypt. In Egypt, the calf represented the sky god, right? What did they just witness? They witnessed the sky opening up and speaking to them. So they're like, oh, it's the sky god. Let's make this calf to honor him. How'd that go? How'd that go well? They thought they were honoring him. Not how that went. Not how that went. Anyways, and bowed down to them. They soon turned aside from the way in which their fathers walked in obeying the commands of Yahweh, as your churches are doing today. They did not do so. And when Yahweh raised up rulers for them, Yahweh was with the ruler and saved them from the hand of their enemies all the days of the ruler, for Yahweh had compassion on their groanings because of those who oppressed them and crushed them. And it came to be, when the ruler was dead, that they would turn back and do more corruptly than their fathers. Look around. Look around. I'm not even just talking about your nation. Go to your church and look around. They're doing the same thing. If you actually read your Bible, you will see that they're doing the same thing. And it's hard to watch. And it's happening on a big scale. Like a big, big scale. To go after other mighty ones, to serve them and bow down to them. They did not refrain from their practices and from their stubborn way. And the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel. Again, I get it. And he said, because this nation has transgressed my covenant that I commanded their fathers and has not obeyed my voice, I also shall no longer drive out before them any of the nations which Joshua left when he died, in order to try Israel by them, whether they would guard the way of Yahweh to walk in them as their fathers guarded them or not. So Yahweh left those nations without driving them out at once, and did not give them into the hand of Joshua. So, a couple of things to learn from these last couple of verses. One, right, you transgress the covenant by disobeying the Most High. And all these Christians think they're in the new covenant, which you're not. Right? If you read Hebrews chapter 8 or Jeremiah 31, the markers of the new covenant have not been met. If it was, we wouldn't be arguing about which laws of the Most High we need to keep. We wouldn't have teachers anymore because we would all know Him from the greatest to the least. And those things haven't happened. Right? We still need teachers. People are still teaching about the Most High. People are still teaching you to keep His law. And people are still arguing and debating about that. The new covenant is reestablished when Yeshua comes back after most of the events of Revelation take place and regathers His people back to reestablish the covenant with them. Right? You're not in the new covenant right now. We have the promise of it, but we don't have the fulfillment of it. Same thing with every other covenant in the Bible. There were multiple covenants given, and they didn't see the fulfillment of it. They just received the promise of it. All right? So they'll say, oh, we're in the new covenant, ignoring the fact that the markers of the new covenant aren't here. And again, ignoring the fact that you think it was not acceptable for them to break His commandments, which led to them getting kicked out of the covenant in the first place. But now you think you get grafted into the new covenant, but you can ignore the same commandments that got them kicked out. Like, make it make sense. Our own Messiah said not one dot of the law would pass until heaven and earth do. And according to Christian doctrine on the mainstream, He made chapters and chapters and chapters of it null and void. It doesn't work. And your excuses don't work. And people don't get grafted into covenant with God for ignoring his way and his instructions and his judgments. Just like it's happening here. And then, when bad things happen on those who ignore and transgress his covenant and his commandments, and don't obey his voice, he sends nations on them to test them, to see what they'll do. If it'll take that to get them to wake up and start walking in his way or not. And, well, we're about to see how that works out, but you already got a little bit of taste of it, that they keep falling into this cycle. Like, oh, we're good now. We can do whatever we want. And that's what we're in right now. In history, right now, today, we're in that part where they say, oh, we're good. We can do whatever we want. Oh, Jesus paid for it. We can do whatever we want. We're good. And I know you're not going to walk into a church and have them say, oh, we can do whatever we want. Except they really do say that, right? In their fruit. They'll say, no, you shouldn't commit adultery. You shouldn't steal. You shouldn't lie. You shouldn't be greedy. You shouldn't be covetous, right? But, I mean, you're still saved, even if you do them. So there's really no drawback. Christian doctrine is super lawless. Super lawless. And they don't realize it. I came out of it. I believed the doctrine. And then I started reading my Bible. And what your Bible says and what you're being taught at your churches are two very different things. So let's read our Bible and learn from it and do our very best not to make the exact same mistakes that are recorded in it. Thank you guys so much for joining me on a study through Judges. I will upload these as often as I am able to, probably once a week. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining me, and may the Most High bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you wonderful peace. In the name of our Messiah, Yeshua. Love you guys. Have a blessed rest of your week, and I hope to see you soon. Yah willing.